Hello, I'm Dr. Josh Hannon. You're listening to Lifestyle Locker Radio. This is episode 149, and we are in the Race to 100, episode 9 here. And this one is called The Struggle is Real, right? You've all been following me as I've been running through this 100-mile ultramarathon training. The programming is scattered. There's a lot of things going on, doing a lot of things. I've done some travel. This week, I'm going to share some really interesting things with you. I started to play and toy with different things. I've started wearing some new running gear. I have swapped out a pair of shoes. Lots of cool things. But first things first, let's start with a quote. Here's the quote. Great things never came from comfort zones. And that's by Neil Strauss. Great things never come from comfort zones. And that's very, very powerful. Why do I say this? Because if you've listened to, or even personally, if you've experienced discomfort in growth in something you've done in your life, in learning a skill, that pain was worth it. That pain, that discomfort, that comfort zone had to be stretched, maybe even stepped out of to allow you to grow. So as I go through this journey, I'm feeling new pains. I'm having experiences with health-wise with certain things that are quite interesting. And I mentioned this on our Facebook Lives that we've done throughout the week. I even shared some pretty gross pictures. So if you haven't followed those or seen those, this, I believe, is going back, this may have been Thursday or Friday this past week. And you can check those out if you're listening to this at a reasonable time. Otherwise, you got a lot of scrolling to do on Facebook. So I did 55, I believe. It's 55.9 miles this week, says Garmin, or 55.8, excuse me. And all running except for 10 miles was a ruck. And let's go through it. So my first day running was on the 3rd, which I believe is a Tuesday. I did 10.04 miles, hour 35. Not bad pace, still sub 10 pace. And after that, that's a 9:29 pace. So for me, that was a pretty decent pace. Then I said, what the hell? Let's ramp it up a little bit. On Thursday, we pushed out 15 and a half. All right. And again, that was also at a 9:28 pace. That's pretty stellar for me. I've been running a little bit faster, not intentionally. It's just happening. It's showing that I'm actually getting better, right? Isn't that pretty cool? So the data doesn't lie. Then I did another one. So this was the 6th. I did another 10.09 miles, and I did that one a little slower. Right, so this is back to back to back, these are the second back to back, right? This is after the 15 and a half mile. I did average a 10:35 pace. Not my best, but I know it. I didn't feel good. I think I did some running and walking during this one, and I just had to. I felt like crap, but I was not finishing 10 miles that day. And the next morning, I didn't run. Holy cow. This is where I decided to do something a little different. My plans got changed a couple times, but this is my plan. My plan was to actually go out in the evening and do a ruck. Weight on your body over time for sustained time and distance will help build through hills, will help build some endurance. I've done a 50-mile ruck before overnight, carrying 30 pounds, but this was, or 35 pounds-ish, something like that. But this one, this walk, this one was not, I didn't have to map myself. I just started going. And this was really interesting. I want to share some of this because this was my first night evolution of training, right? Late night. So I think I started at 11, 12, something like that. I started pretty late. And maybe 11:30. I got back at 11. I got back at 1, right on the nose pretty much. And 1 a.m. that is. I did 10 miles of rucking, and boy, man, everything comes to life. All the feelings, emotions, everything is really weird when you're doing things at night in suburbia. I'm starting this walk, and I leave the house. Actually, it was an RV I'm staying in, so my sleep has been crappy anyway. So this has been good, sleep training for me, or lack thereof sleep training for me. But what I did, I started walking, and holy cow, I got a headlamp, I got lights, I'm very visible, but nonetheless, I'm in suburbia. There's a lot of people moving around the roads at 11 p.m. still, maybe not tons, but enough, and they're usually speeding. They're usually kids. They're usually cruising around, nonetheless. So I'm rucking along this main road, and about a mile and a half, maybe 2 miles in, I'm looking. I see, if anybody has seen deer at nighttime with lights, they see their eyes, right? People I know that hunt will know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not a hunter yet, but I will tell you this. It was weird to see him, and I go up, and it's 3 huge bucks, right? Just hanging out, walking across the road. There's nobody else out at the moment. I'm like, holy cow. Where do these guys come from? You don't see them during the day. Massive, right? 8, 10 pointers. These huge antlers. My dog would love to chew on those antlers, but really cool. So I see those. I start zigzagging through roads in my town that I've never been on. I had to open up Google Maps many times to make sure like they weren't dead ends, to make sure I can get back out to the main road. And I just zigged and zagged and zigged and zagged, downhill, uphill, made my way back. Ended up seeing a raccoon, I saw a fox, squirrels, the whole 9 yards. And it was interesting, but you get to stay, I have to pay attention at nighttime. And this is pretty funny, actually. So 11 o'clock at night, I'm usually sleeping at this point, and now I'm doing this ruck, and I drank a lot of water pre-ruck. And so I had to go to the bathroom. It's, midnight. I'm like 4 miles from the house. And what do? The cool thing was nobody was around, so I was able just to stand up and pee on the side of the road, which, do what you got to do, right? So, but it felt great. I was able to keep moving, huffing and puffing pretty fast, and zigzagged all the way back home. But there were always things, in the woods as I'm walking past these woods. It's pitch black. Some of the roads that I was on had street lamps. Some, actually, many did not. So, I'd hear rustling in the woods. Headlamp would turn, and most of the time it was a squirrel or a raccoon that was a distance away from me, so that was quite all right. And really interesting experience, but all your senses really come to life. If you've never done anything like this at night, like a hike, I recommend doing it with someone. Really eerie doing it yourself, but I guess that was a good experience for me. My race is a high probability I'm going to be one of the only people I'll see at that point. Maybe a few more people. I don't know. We'll find out. My last races, there weren't a lot of people. There weren't a lot of people seen on a lot of the event. Everybody was pretty scattered out and about. So did that, and then back to today. So another 10 miles, just finished that today. Felt great, nice and simple and easy. But the thing that's important to understand is, through this whole thing, my left big toe has been killing me. I forgot that I had this huge bruise on my heel from kicking on my heel, hitting my boat in a really weird way, breaking the skin, actually, and blood all over the boat. Totally forgot about that. So as I'm running and my feet are pounding and I'm putting, almost 60 miles in this week, my feet or my body's like feeling it, right? I have this chafing under my arms, this rash from the deodorant I've been using. I've switched through all these awesome natural deodorants, which work for many people. But my God, my arms are crazy. They're red. They're really irritated. My left arm broke out in hives. And so I started 2 new things this week. I started putting calendula and this healing ointment. I don't have it in the office with me, but I started putting it all over the rash. Actually feels pretty good. Actually starting to change some color a little bit. The reds and shades are actually changing. Hopefully that means the body's healing and doing what it should, so it can actually bring it down. And second, besides that, I started taking chlorophyll, right? This is made from alfalfa, but when I was at the health food store, trying to remedy these armpits of mine, because what happens is, I'm sure it's the healing process. It's constantly bouncing back and forth because I'm running, right? My arms are going back and forth and back and forth, so my armpits are always rubbing back and forth. So I'm sure it's a little bit longer healing process than not. So the guy at the health food store gave me this salve for my arms, right? The calendula and these other herbs and spices or whatever is in it. It's all natural. Did that, and then he recommended chlorophyll, and what he would describe, which is pretty interesting. He goes, well, this will help you with energy. He goes down to this, it's like the cellular level of the plant, the chlorophyll. So what's going to happen, it helps detoxify, it helps deodorize from the inside out. So he said if you use this 3 to 6 months, not only are you going to start to feel good, function better, it's good for you health-wise, but your body's going to naturally start to clean itself out, help your breath, help your pits, help the things that tend to smell, because your body will clean these things out. And actually, he's like 3 to 6 months, you won't have to use deodorant, which I think is way cool, right? If I don't need to use it, why use it? If I don't smell, at least. I can smell when I come back from these long runs, but nonetheless, I think some of the nutritional shifts and changes, been making bulletproof, or if you will, I'm calling it bulletproof, power rice and power potatoes, which I have in my endurance training program. Made some from a farm, some of the potatoes from a farm yesterday. They were out of this world. We actually made yams instead of sweet potatoes. My preference now, after knowing what I know, I prefer the sweet potatoes for flavor more. They're a little bit more sugary than the yams. The yams are a little more mild. So if you do like the less sweet, go yams. If you like sweeter, go sweet potatoes, right? And then that's about it. So I want to leave you with this, is I want to make sure that you're staying inspired, that you're doing things that you should be doing things that are challenging, doing things that help push you out of your comfort zone, that allow you to see some pain, but also allow you to see some growth. And what I want to challenge you to do, so here's a challenge for you, is I want to see if you're training in any way you're training, even if it's mentally training, like reading a book, but let's just say you're exercising. We'll use running because that's actually simple for us at this point, right? In the race to 100 to talk about this. If you are running 10 miles, right? I want you to run 5 to 10% more, right? So a half a mile to a mile more on your next run for the following week. So don't just do this every day. You can go 5 to 10% as you start to grow. Those growing, you're going to feel the growing pains. That extra mile, you're like, that's really not that much, but if you're a runner, you know what I'm talking about, that you feel it, right? So I want you to push through it. It's going to be uncomfortable, and I just want you to just go with it. Accept the pain. If it's going into what they call the pain cave, like you're like really uncomfortable, move slower, lower your heart rate, challenge your thoughts to calm down a little bit, and think of something nice, get that heart rate down, and then just push through. So you can actually complete it. And when you complete it, you're like, wow, I didn't realize I had that much left in the tank. And then as you start to progress, the following week, go test the run again, go a little bit longer. And then you keep doing this, and you're going to be, if you're up for training for a half marathon, it may take you a little while to get there. If you're up for training for a marathon, a little bit longer, but you can push yourself and go beyond where you truly think you are. So again, Dr. Josh Hant for Lifestyle Locker Radio. This is the Race to 100. If you're not following me on social media, make sure you do follow. I'm posting things on Facebook pretty regularly, 4 to 5 to 6 times a week on the run, and I'm usually doing something post-run or post-exercise. So check that out. And if you are not following us on Lifestyle Locker Radio, or Lifestyle Locker, I should say, .com, you can go over to Facebook and just track what's going on. Facebook.com/Lifestyle Locker. Very, very simple. And if you're in the chiropractic world, or you're looking for a chiropractor, you're someone that actually is looking for a chiropractor, you can head over to the Healthy Life NYC podcast. We're only a few episodes in, but what is starting to talk about in the beginning, we're actually talking about how the body heals and functions, so you can check that out on iTunes as well. I do appreciate you all. Have a great day, evening, or night, wherever and whenever you're listening to this, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.